What's up, everybody? So I was recording a video just the other day about combine fits for the Packers, guys who worked out well or better or as expected, but that would probably be on the Packers board. But had to trash that today for the most part, since obviously the two big signings. So I'll kind of talk about that a little bit, but then I'll also give you guys my quick thoughts on the signings and the cuts and all that stuff. So with Bakhtiari, we kind of saw it coming. I've been saying for a while that Bakhtiari was probably going to get cut. It didn't make sense for them to pay him as much as he's getting paid, and he hasn't been healthy. He basically hasn't played in 2 years, and all the surgeries. It just didn't make, and his age, it just didn't make sense. And someone else would end up paying him more than the Packers would probably be willing to. So saw it coming, kind of. I think a lot of us saw it coming. It makes sense, of course, and all that stuff. So kind of in a way, kind of a nothing burger, but it sucks, of course, but because he did a lot for the Packers. He was a great player for the Packers, potentially Hall of Famer. I mean, it just depends on how the NFL will view the Hall of Fame will view him as far as his career. Aaron Jones, I thought a while ago, I thought they were going to cut him this offseason, but then all the indications were seemingly that they were going to keep him for at least one more year. So I thought, okay, well, they'll probably just keep him for one more year at that. At most, he's nearing 30. He's been injury prone, this and that. He's got a high cap figure. I figure, okay, maybe one last year. But looks like they said screw it, because he wasn't willing to take the pay cut that they wanted to take. And Jim Rosenhaus obviously doesn't not like taking pay cuts for his clients, so it sucks, but it happens. It is what it is. But great Packer, of course. As far as the history of the Packers and everything he did for the Packers, and he was always he was a soldier, as I said. Josh Jacobs signing, I don't know. We'll see. It depends on the money and the years and how much is guaranteed. I think right now he's better than Aaron Jones, just because he's going to be available. He doesn't have the injury history, injury questions, and of course he's younger. That's obviously a plus. But we'll see. This is a lot to be determined. We'll see the years and the money and this and that he's going to be getting. So that's kind of a wait and see approach. John Wayne Jr., I mean, we kind of all expected that the Packers kind of wanted him back, but at their price, and he was going to get more than they wanted to pay him anyway. So again, not really surprised there. And I think that was it as far as the move. Oh, obviously shouldn't have forgotten Xavier McKinney. I didn't think that was going to happen. I thought they were going to be in the conversation. They were going to offer him, a contract and whatnot. But I thought the money would get too much, and the Packers would just say, "Oh, peace out. We'll go sign Jordan Fuller for, $10 million or whatever he's going to get." But they surprised us and gave him more than I thought of them. Of course, we know that the 17 mil is not official. It may not be 17 million. It may just be what's maximum allowance, because those numbers when they first come out, they're usually from the agent. So it may not exactly be 17 million. We'll see. But still a good signing. I like him. But according to some prominent Packer bloggers, he won't be able to play post safety in Green Bay because he ran a 4.63 out of college. So I guess he's just gonna be playing the box. Not. So obviously, as we all know, playing 40 speed is not important for safeties. Your agility, your ability to read the play, and this and that is all more important. But anyway, so with that being said, obviously I think he'll be playing mostly the post. He'll be playing, I think I comment on Twitter, probably, I'm just guessing, somewhere between 50 to 55% of his snaps will be at post. But he'll obviously play snaps in the slot, he'll play snaps in the box. They'll move him around, of course. Still a good player, good signing. He's still young. I had forgotten, but someone had posted he's 24 years old, same age as Anthony Johnson Jr. So it's a 4-year deal, I believe it was 4-year deal. So I mean, as long as it's not like super crazy, putting the money on the back end, and in the 4th year he's getting 25 million or whatever, but the first year he's getting 8 or whatever. As long as it's not something, as long as I'd rather than front load it than back load it. That's kind of what I'm saying, kind of what I'm getting at. But yeah, so obviously these signings make a big difference as far as how the Packers are going to approach this draft. It's not a great safety class, like we've talked about many times. It's not as bad as last year. Last year was pretty bad. but this year is better. It's still not as good because there's not a super lot of depth because a lot of guys going back, like Rod Moore and some other guys going back. So it kind of kills the depth in the class. And then some couple guys like Cameron Kinch is not working out as well as we thought. It kind of hurts the class a bit. But still, like I said, decent class, and they still need that strong safety, that box safety. And as I was recording right now, let's see, about almost 2 o'clock my time on the West Coast on Monday. They obviously haven't signed anybody else. But I think they'll probably still go for that box safety in the draft. It's easier to fill, easier to bring in a rookie to just play that box role. So we'll see with that. And running back, I think it moves the need down. I think they still grab another guy in the draft. They need a backup. We know they like Emmanuel Wilson, but I don't think they'll go to next year with just sitting on, okay, well, we'll just go with Emmanuel Wilson as our backup and Josh Jacobs as the starter. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't compute. So I think they still take a guy in day 3. I think it just lessens the need to take one early because of Aaron Jones's injury history, we said. And lessens the need to take somebody who could be the bell cow, so to speak, if or when Aaron Jones got injured. But I still think they draft somebody in day 3. But so with that being said, I will get to the combine guys. This is in my previous video that I deleted. I'm not going to talk about quarterbacks because hardly anything worked out. It's not a great quarterback class. All that stuff is no. A couple guys worked out, like I said. But Keaton Slovis was the top guy, and he's a late day 3 undrafted free agent type guy. So I'm not going to really worry too much about the quarterbacks right now. But so we'll start with the running backs real quick. Isaac Rendo from Louisville. He fits the Packers threshold, 6 foot 221. Again, he's a guy who could be. He probably would make more sense if Aaron Jones was still there. But even still, I wouldn't say he's off their board now or anything like that. He's got the size they like, 6 foot 220. And he ran faster than he plays on film. I think 4.33. I think on film he's more like a 4.45 guy, which is still pretty fast, but it's not like blazing fast. But again, like I said, had a good workout. And then, of course, Tyrone Tracy from Purdue. He kind of fits what the Packers like, and actually, I think he'd be a good complement to Jacobs because he's a former receiver. He can run routes. He can catch the ball. He can contribute in that form. Where Jacobs is he's an okay receiver. He's not terrible or anything like that, but he's not like a guy that's going to go out there and run a post route or anything crazy like that. But I think he'd be a good fit. So he's a potential fit. And of course, he's got the size they like, 5'11", 210. He ran a 4.48. Really good agilities. A 6.813 cone, which is really good. So he's really quick. So he could fit with the Packers. We'll see. Day 3 pick, of course. Still kind of technically a developmental guy since he's a former receiver. Another great fit would be Jalen Wright from Tennessee. It'll be a really good compliment to Jacobs. 5'10 and a half, 210. Ran a 4.3, 4.38. I think honestly, I think I was expecting him to run maybe a little bit faster, but still within the range of his play speed, I guess you could call it. But again, another great fit for the Packers. He's fast. He can catch the ball in the backfield. He's an okay blocker, still developing, but he's would be a great fit with the Packers. Trey Benson, similar to Guerendo, I think he would have been a slightly better fit if Jones was back there because he could be that, again, like I said, that bell cow. He can catch the ball. He's an okay blocker, still developing. Again, he shows effort though, at least, and so he's working on it. Again, but like I said, same with Guerendo. I wouldn't say he's magically off the Packer board or anything like that. And he's a bigger dude, which Goody says he wants a bigger dude. 216, 6 foot, and he ran a 4.39 actually, a little bit faster than I think he plays, but still right in the area. Like there were people talking about him making him run like a 4.6 or something that didn't make sense. So him running like 4.39 is good. I think it boosts his stock. But with Jacobs, I don't know if they take a running back on day 2. I think Benson is a day 2 guy, so he might not necessarily not be on the board, but just they may not take the value him in the second round with already Jacobs on the roster. Kind of somewhat similar to Jalen Wright. Jalen Wright is probably a late day 2 guy. We'll see. Maybe he slips to day 3, but that going anyway. Another guy that kind of fits the thresholds, Marshawn Lloyd from USC, formerly of South Carolina. So he played at 2 USCs, but the only issue is his height. So he's under 5'9", and the Packers, since Ted Thompson, have not drafted, and I think even going back to Wolf, have not drafted a running back under 5'9 and a half. And Lloyd was just under 5'9", 5'8" and 6 6'8", so just under 5'9", but not even 5'9", not even like 5'9 and a quarter. If he was 5'9 and a quarter, maybe. But he might be off the board. Plus, he's a bigger dude, 220. They may not need someone that big, I should say. And he may be a day 2 guy or early day 3 guy, so we'll see with that. Dylan Lobb would be a decent fit. Just under 5'10", 206, and ran a 4.54. Did agility 6.84 3 cone, which is really quick. 4.02 short shuttle. So again, the guy that would fit athletically, and with his receiving skills, he would probably fit as a kind of a third down back role if he can improve as a blocker. With Jacobs. Another guy I don't think it's similar to Benson in a way. In them, Isaiah Davis, kind of again another kind of quote unquote bell cow type guys. 6 foot 218. Just ran a 4.54. I'm sorry, not 4.54, 4.59. So not that fast. I don't know if he's a great fit for the Packers, but at least from testing wise, he's fit. So he could be on the board. Plus, he's a day 3 guy, so it's possible. He's not as great of, his receiving skills is not as developed. He mostly just carried the ball at South Dakota State. We'll see with that, though, of course, with the pro days and how he does in the drills and all that type of stuff. But I would say he's still possibly on their board. Another guy, kind of a decent fit, Kendall Milton from Georgia, just under 6'2", 225. So he's a bigger dude, but he has experience as a catcher, pass catcher out of the backfield and running routes and that type of stuff. So he could potentially be a fit. The only thing is he ran a 4.62. He's not that fast. Explosion drills were okay, but his short shuttle, he only ran a short shuttle. He didn't run the 3 cone. His short shuttle was a 4.38, which is a little high on the high side for the Packers. So he's not particularly quick. But he could still be a fit. Like I said, he's a day 3 guy, has receiving experience, all that type of stuff. Another guy that's a decent fit, George Holani from Boise State. Came at 5'10", 208, and ran a 4.52. So, fits in there. He's got receiving skills. He can carry the ball. He could be another day 3 type guy. He's a little bit older, but he doesn't have a super lot of wear and tear on his body because SNGNT, I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce it, kind of took over the starting running back role this year at Boise State, and he's probably be a day 2 guy next year. But so his wear and tear on his body is not too bad, and he fits in the size thresholds and all that type of stuff. One last guy, Ray Davis, somewhat similar to Marshawn Lloyd in that he's under 5'9". So, and he's older. He's a guy I really like. I would love to see him in Green Bay. I just don't know if they take him. He's got really good receiving skills for a small back, for a guy that's not that tall. He doesn't, you're looking at him, you wouldn't think he'd be a good receiver, but he's got good hands. He catches the ball really well naturally out of the backfield. Probably catches more naturally than Aaron Jones. Not saying he's a better receiver, but I think he catches more naturally. He doesn't fight the ball as much as Aaron Jones does sometimes. But I think he'd be great for Green Bay. But like I said, I don't know if they would take him because he's under 5'9". But ran a 4.5 240, so he ran decent speed. I think he probably plays maybe a little bit faster, but that's about his play speed, I would say. I think some people thought he was around like 4.6, something like that. I didn't see that. Moving on to receivers. So nothing's changed too much, obviously, these last few days. But so I don't expect them to take a receiver too early. But if someone slips, maybe they had to agree on, it's possible. Maybe if it's someone that they think that could be one of the top 3 receivers, or could even be a true X / number 1 type guy, something like that. I guess maybe them take a receiver early, or them taking someone late, day 3, like 7th round, as just a flyer, as just a guy who has some upside, who can maybe they can develop him, the 7th round or something like that. But with that being said, I'll just talk about the guys at the combine that fit the Packers thresholds. So Adonai Mitchell came in at 6'2", 205, so shorter than he was listed at 6'4", but a lot heavier, about 10 pounds heavier than he was listed at. So actually it looks a lot better on him, at him being 6'2", 205 than 6'4", and 195. But he ran a 4.3, 4.40, so that's pretty crazy for a guy that big. Again, Xavier Legette from South Carolina, 6'1", 220, ran a 4.39. That was kind of expected. So nothing too crazy there or surprising there. But again, another kind of athletic fit. Cornelius Johnson kind of surprised people from Michigan. Came in at just under 6'3", came at 212, and ran a 4.45. He doesn't seem to play that fast. Probably more like a 4.5 flat guy, but potential fit, day 3 guy that maybe they could kind of develop, even though he's kind of older. Yeah, 5th-year senior, I think he played all 5 years. But still potential fit for them. And a guy that could potentially take day 3 and develop if he slips. If he slips like the 6th round or something, I could see him taking him. Another guy that fits the thresholds, but I don't think they'll take him. He just doesn't seem like their type of guy. Johnny Wilson from Florida State. Big dude, 6'6", 230, 231, 35-inch arms. It's crazy length. But ran 4.52. My only issue is he doesn't seem to play to that. If I were guessing off his film speed, his speed is off his film, I would think he ran like a 4.6-ish. So, and just they've never drafted a supersized wide receiver like that. I mean, of course, they're not that common, of course, but I just don't think he'd be on their board just because of his size and what does he really bring to the offense that's different from anybody else. I mean, he's a big physical receiver and gets the ball in the middle, stuff like that. They already have guys that can do that. He's not a true like number one type receiver. So I don't think they would take him. But athletically, like I said, he still kind of fits, at least testing wise. Also, Tez Walker from UNC. He dropped a little bit of weight, came in at 6'1", 193, but still, again, fits the threshold. Came with 33-inch arms, actually, surprisingly, for a guy that's just 6'1.5". So really long arms. The Packers like long arms, and the receiver they like. Actually, I'll mention that in a minute. I'll talk about this in a little bit. But yeah, he ran a 4.36. Kind of expected he to be. He's a big time deep threat. Some people compared him, play style wise at least, to Christian Watson. Obviously not the same size and athletic, but he's still very athletic. But probably not the same freak level athlete, but same type of guy where he's a deep threat, but he's not a nuanced route runner, and his release package needs a lot of work and other stuff like that. But yeah, so another guy that they could take. I don't know if they will, but if they want to add some more speed to the receiving core, they could take him since they don't have a super lot of speed there. They have some good speed, obviously, with Watson and Reed and stuff like that, but the rest of the guys are kind of average-ish speed. Another guy who I don't think he'll be there at 25. I'll probably eventually take him off my board just because I don't think he'll be there at 25, but I have him there for now. Brian Thomas Jr. from LSU. Just freak athlete, freak athlete, dude. Came in just under 6'3", 209, and ran a 4.33. So bigger than Adonai Mitchell and faster, which is nuts. But the dude's like I said, I think the dude's probably a top 15 pick. So, yeah, like I said, I don't think he's probably on their board in that sense because he'll be gone before they get to pick him. But if he was somehow slipped to 25, I'd take him, and I wouldn't. If Goody did take him, I wouldn't completely surprise me. I just don't think it's going to happen. Another guy, Ryan Flournoy fits. Small school guy, 6 foot, almost 6'1", 202. Ran a 4.4, so that's pretty good. 4.44. Sorry. Fits the thresholds again. Small school guy, so they probably have him as a day 3 guy. He probably is a day 3 guy, but so there's a potential there. Bub Means, he's interesting from Pittsburgh. He came in at 6'1", 212, but he played this past season closer to 220-ish. So he dropped about 8 pounds, and I think that added some agility and some speed to him because he ran a 4.43, and he didn't really seem to be that fast on film. So I think that's more of an issue of he was heavier, so he was slower. He dropped some weight, so he gained some speed and agility and stuff like that. So he looks better. Developmental day 3 type of guy who could, he could eventually. I mean, he has the physical skills to eventually be a number 1 receiver if he develops, but he hasn't shown it as much, so more than likely he doesn't get there, but the potential is there. Jermaine Burton from Alabama, been there for a long time, but never really had big numbers. So that's kind of a question I wonder about him, especially for athletic. He had tested out to be. It's kind of weird how he didn't have big numbers at Alabama, since there wasn't a lot of other talent at wide receiver that played with him last couple of years. It was mostly him. But 6 foot, 196, and ran a 4.45. Good explosion testing, could be a fit there. He's a good deep threat, so it's potential. We'll see. Jalen Polk from Washington, 6'1", 203, ran a 4.53. He fits their thresholds. He could play slot too, but they don't really need a slot receiver. But anyway, Jalen Coker from Holy Cross, another guy fits 6'1", 208. He fits too. He ran actually faster than I thought. He ran a 4.57. Oh, sorry, actually slower than I expected. Sorry. 4.7, so it might just be him playing at a smaller school. He looked faster than he was. But could be a day 3 guy. We'll see. Maybe if he goes undrafted, maybe they take a shot at him. I think that's more likely than taking him from day 3. Jalen McMillan from Washington, again, another guy who could probably play slot. Put on a little weight. He was kind of smaller this year. He was like 190, 185, something like that. but came to combine at 197, so got some good bulk on there. And still ran a decent time at 449. Long arms, 32-inch arms, so you can play inside or outside. Another guy that I love, really love, I don't think the Packers will take him, but Keon Coleman from Florida State. He's been talked about a bunch. Came in at 6'3", 213, so he dropped a little bit of weight, not a lot, but 32-inch arms, but ran a 4.61. That's the thing that was really surprising to me. I thought he played a lot faster than that. I thought he played like 4.5-ish, maybe 4.45. So he might just be one of those guys that doesn't test as well as he plays. Because, I mean, a lot of people saw it. They put the video of him out there on the gauntlet drill, and he had the highest, MPH or whatever, like 23 miles per hour or something like that. And he ran faster than some other guys who ran like 4.4. So I think he's just one of those guys that he's field fast, not, track fast. But I think he'd be a great fit in Green Bay. I think he could be a true X. He still needs a little more development, I think, than people thought coming into the year. But I think he could be a true number one, true X. I would love him in Green Bay. I don't think it's going to happen because I think he's going to go before Green Bay picks. I think he's probably a top 15, top 20 player. So, but if he slips, I wouldn't be opposed to it. I don't think Goody would do it, but I wouldn't be opposed to it. Another guy that's kind of a fit, although once we get his agilities, he might not. Brendan Rice from USC, 6'2", 208 with 33-inch arms, so pretty long arms for his size. Actually ran a 4.51. He doesn't look that fast on film. He looks like 4.55 maybe, but it's more of his agility. He didn't do agility testing, but on film he doesn't look very quick. He looks kind of stiff. We'll see once he does agility, but I have a feeling once he does his agility testing, it'll knock him off the Packers board. But he's on there for now at least. And the final guy that I like a lot too, I don't know if the Packers take him, Javon Baker from UCF. Came at 6'1", 202, 32-inch arms, so good arm length for that size. It's kind of surprisingly ran a 4.54. On his film, he looks faster. He didn't. I wouldn't say he's a 4.4 guy, but I would say a 4.5 flat, 4.48, 4.49 around that range. He looks like on film because he's really good deep threat, and he can really stack DBs and get downfield. And he shows surprising ability to get yak with his agility. So I think once he does agility, he's really going to move up the RAS board because he's really quick on film. That's what he uses his agility to get yak. He's quick. He bounces around guys. He's one of those guys when you see him. He's going up and catching the ball. As he's coming down, he's already starting to make moves as he's coming down to get the yak. So he's one of those type of guys that has really good spatial awareness. And as far as, I don't know what the word for it is, maybe body awareness. Like as far as where you are in the field and where the defenders are around you on the field and being able to already kind of intuitively make moves without just being able to see the other guys and before being able to see them and as you're coming down with the ball and stuff like that. Okay, so what I've done now is, what I've noticed now, I should say, is the Packers kind of view slot receivers slightly different than outside receiver. This is something I've come to realization this offseason. Well, kind of when they drafted Jaden Reed, I kind of started thinking that. But then when I started looking at the numbers, running the numbers, it looks like they actually view their slot receivers slightly different than their outside receivers. So with their outside receivers, they want their guys at least 5'11", preferably 6 foot plus. And preferably, 195 plus. But they'll take guys that are like 190. But with the slot, and then also they want 31-inch arms with their outside receivers, at least. But with the slot guys, they'll give a little bit. They'll take guys that are 5'9". They'll take guys with 30.5-inch arms. They'll take guys that are a little bit lighter, like Reed was at 187. So there's some give there on their thresholds for slot receivers. So although I don't think they'll take one, like I said, because they have Reed, they have Melton, and then all the other receivers, Wicks, Watson, Dobbs, they can all play slot in the slot. So I'm pretty sure they're set slot for this year. So I don't think they'll draft one, but if they do, something changes, they trade somebody away, they trade off Dobbs or they trade off Wicks for some weird reason or something like that, and they want to take someone who can play slot. Here's some guys at least who could fit. So Ricky Pearsall from Florida, 6'1", 189, just under 31-inch arms, 31 and 3/4. Ran a 4.41 and has some really good explosion testing, 42-inch vertical, which kind of was surprising. So he could be if they decide to go that way, he could be fit. A guy who's been talked about as a quote-unquote Packers tier 1 player, who I don't think actually is a tier 1 technically, Luke McCaffrey from Rice. I know it's kind of weird people talking about him, as a slot, but because of some of his measurables, I think Packers would view him as more of a slot. So he came in just under 6'2", 198, but had under 30 and a half inch arms, had 30 and a quarter inch arms, which is really was pretty short for a guy that's almost 6'2". But he ran a 4.46, of course, has a good explosion testing. But like I said, with that arm length and the weight, which wasn't that much off, 198, but still, with that, especially with that arm length, I'm fairly certain the Packers will probably view him as more of a slot. So I don't think they would take him. I don't think he's a quote unquote tier 1 fit or anything like that. And like I said, they're pretty much set a slot. So I really don't think they're going to take him. I'm not saying he's not on their board, but if he somehow slips really late, maybe they take a shot at him. But I don't think it happens. Another guy that fits, Ladd McConkey, came in at just under 6 foot, 186 with 30 and a quarter inch arms. Ran a 4.43, decent explosion testings. He would be a good fit if they wanted to take a slot. And of course, last but not least, Roman Wilson from Michigan, another guy that would fit 5'10 and almost 5'11, 5'10 and 6'8", 185. Again, 30, just over 30 and a half inch, just under 30 and a half inch arms. But didn't really do any testing, but he would be a fit if they decided to go that way. So with tight ends, the tight ends this year surprisingly tested a lot better than people thought. It's still not a great tight end class. It's still basically Brock Bowers and JT Sanders, and then a bunch of day 3 dudes, basically. But still, we'll go over some guys because the Packers could technically use the third tight end. I mean, I know they just re-signed, I'm forgetting his name, the tight end, who was on the IR last year. But still, I think they could even look at the upgrading anyway. He's not costing much, so he could be easily replaced. But anyway, let's talk about the tight ends real quick here. Guys have hit the thresholds. Theo Johnson, Penn State, of course, tested out like a freak. These Penn State guys always test out like freaks for some weird reason, but they don't produce as much on the field, and they don't, and the wins and loss totals don't seem to match up and all that stuff. But regardless, 6'6", almost 260, 33-inch arms, ran a 4.58, which kind of blew people away. Next, really good explosion testing. Despite his size, he's kind of more of a receiving threat, despite his size, but he's not a bad blocker or anything like that. It's not like he can't play wide. He could play wide for sure. But to take advantage of his athleticism, I think he'd want to split him out at times. But he would be a fit, of course. But the Packers already have Musgrave, so kind of similar type role. But moving on, Tip Ryman came at 6'4", 270, but ran a 4.64, so that's pretty surprising. He ran a 4.64 at 270. And good explosion testing. Had a decent short shuttle and 3-cone times, actually, so he has a full athletic profile. Ran a 7.02 short 3-cone, which is, again, pretty crazy for a guy's 270 tight end. Even though he's 270, though, he's kind of more of a receiver, but he's still developing again. So could be a potential fit with the Packers. We'll see. His career is kind of inconsistent. Another Packers favorite, Ben Sinnott, Kansas State. He can play that tight end or H-back role. People call him like Super DeGuara. I would kind of agree. He's kind of like DeGuara, but better, basically. Just under 6'4", 250, 32-inch arms, which is actually pretty good. DeGuara had kind of short arms, like 31, I think, even, or 30 and 3/4 or something like that. So he's a better fit. Ran a 4.68, which is decent, not bad. Good explosion testing. Would be a good fit in Green Bay, be able to play that third tight end / H-back role. Another guy actually I really like. He's a day 3 guy. Jared Wiley from TSU. Came in at 6'6", 249 with 33-inch arms, which is pretty good, and then ran a 4.62, which is surprising. I thought he was gonna be like a 4.7-ish guy, but and these okay explosion testing. But even though he's a bigger dude, again, kind of like Ryman, he's more of a receiving threat. He's more of a little bit of a linear build type of guy, but he's not a bad blocker right now, of course. But he's a guy you can split him out, you can play him in line and stuff like that. So I wouldn't mind him in Green Bay. I don't know if it happens, but another one, Tanner McLaughlin from Arizona. More of a split guy you would split out, more of an athletic guy, run after the catch type of thing. 6'5", 244. Arms are a tiny bit short at 31 and 3/4, but ran a 4.61, had okay explosion testing. He would be a potential day 3 type pick. Another guy that kind of just barely made it. Kate Stover from Ohio State. Another guy just under 6'4", 247, 32-inch arms. Ran a 4.65, which is kind of surprising because on the field he looks like 4.75-ish, but maybe there's some more upside there, potential there. But his 4.45 short shuttle is like borderline for the Packers, like borderline on their threshold. So he's probably not high on their list, but he's again potential pick. Good blocker guy anyway. So it could be a fit as number 3 tight end. And as I mentioned before earlier, Jatavian Sanders, just another guy just under 6'4", 245, ran a 4.69, a little bit slower than we thought, but not bad. Had an okay short shuttle at 4.32, so he is another potential fit for the Packers there. Okay, so moving on to the tackles. So it's an interesting class. So there's a bunch of guys who kind of that came up outside of the Packers specials, like Marius Mims and Talise Fuaga, either by weight or by arm length or something like that, or athletic testing or whatever. There's a number of guys that didn't fit the Packers thresholds, but surprisingly, there were some that fit the thresholds that I was kind of surprised with as well. So again, this is just from highest RS score down, working my way down. Talon Grable from UCF, he's a potential developmental guy, even though he's a little bit older. He came out of high school, he was a quarterback, and then he went to Jacksonville State. They put him at tight end for I think a year and a half. Then they moved him to offensive line, and then he started, I think, his third year or something there, and then he transferred over to UCF, and he was started there the last 2 years. It took him some time to put on some weight. He came to UCF at 290-ish, and he's just under 6'6". So, but he showed up combine at 306. So hopefully that helps with his ability to handle power rushes, because he would struggle with that sometimes. But had a high 9.85 RAS score, 4.95 40. Had some good verticals. So I think as long as his agility scores check out, I think he'd be great for the Packers. He's a day 3 guy again, like I said, because he's kind of a developmental guy, even though he's older. But he'd still be a potential pick for the Packers on day 3 if they're looking to maybe start Walker for the year and let him develop behind Walker for a year, and then move on from Walker, or move Walker to swing tackle or something like that. Could be a potential pick. A guy who's actually been kind of up and down my board as far as the Packers, Tyler Guyton from Oklahoma. I had him on my board, but then he showed up at the Senior Bowl at 329 or something like that. So I was like, oh, well, he's too big for the Packers now. Oklahoma listed him at 315 or something like that. So, and he's probably, at the time I thought he was probably the right tackle only prospect. So I thought, oh, he's probably off their board. But I showed the combine just under 6'8". So taller than any right tackle that they've ever drafted, but I don't think it's gonna be an issue because of his athletic testing. But showed up at 322, so he dropped some weight, so that's good. He's just 1 pound heavier than Sean Ryan, who was the heaviest guy they've drafted, but he's almost 6'8", so it's not like he's this short, squatty guy. It's spread out. Came with 34-inch arms, which was good, and then actually ran a 5.19 40, and had some really good agility testing, 7.53 cone, 4.71 short shuttle. So, and he started one game at left tackle in 2022. So maybe if the Packers see him as a potential developmental left tackle, because he's a former defensive lineman, I think he played some tight end too, if I remember right. But he's still a developmental guy, so they may be willing to take him at 25 and then just let him sit for a year and develop. It's possible. So I think he's a potential pick at 25, actually. A month ago I probably would have said no, but I think he is a potential pick at 25. Another guy that would fit, Roger Rosegarten from Washington, 6'5", 308. So he put on a little bit of weight. He was 300, I think, this past year. So he's put on about 8 pounds, which is good because he's always struggled with dealing with bull rushers and power rushers and those type of guys. So hopefully that weight helps him dealing with those type of guys. So that would make him a potential fit with the Packers. 33.5-inch arms, so not bad. Ran a 4.92, which was a bit surprising. He was always thought he was a little athletic, but I didn't know he was going to be that athletic. Has some good explosion testing, had decent short shuttle, all that stuff. Has played only right tackle at Washington. So it depends on the Packers view him. If they think he can play left tackle, then he's a potential fit. If they think he's a right tackle only guy, maybe not. We'll see. We'll see. It depends on the Packers view him as far as athletic testing, he fits. Another one, Brandon Coleman from TCU, 6'4.5", 313 with 34-inch arms. Ran a 4.99. Actually, it was surprising because I didn't think he played that athletic. But had good explosion testing again. Guy who can play guard or tackle. I think he's probably, if you keep him at tackle, you probably put him at right tackle. But again, we'll see what the Packers see him. But I think, again, like I said, athletically, he fits. Troy Fontenot from Washington, another guy that kind of fits, actually. I was kind of surprised. I originally had him as moving to guard. But with some of the testing, his measurements, I think you start him out at tackle and let him prove to you that he can't play tackle and he has to move to guard. But he can do either or. And of course, the Packers like that, even though he hasn't really played guard. Dropped a few pounds, showed up at 317 at the combine, just under 6'4". And then, like I said, 34.5-inch arms, which is really important for the tackles and backers. They don't take tackles who are under 33.25-inch arms. So he obviously passes that. Ran a 501.40, has some good explosion testing. So another guy who could be a potential pick at 25. Again, we'll see with that. I think Guyton probably has a little bit more upside, so they may view Guyton as higher than they view Choi, but we'll see. Another guy, Caden Wallace from Penn State. He pretty much only played right tackle, and I think he's played some guard as well, some right guard, I think, if I remember right. Came in just under 6'5", 314 with 34-inch arms, which is, again, good. And ran a 5.15 with the Packers. And like I said, if they see him there on day 3 and they think, oh, well, this guy can play right tackle, this guy can play guard, he could be a potential fit for the Packers and give them some depth. Another guy who I have him on the board right now, but I'm not 100% sure if he's going to be a fit. We'll see with the rest of his testing. But Kingsley Sumatia came in just under 6'5", but 326. So he's about 4 pounds, which I know not a lot, but you gotta have some point where you're like, okay, this guy's too big. So I think right now he's probably a little too big for the Packers, but he's not that far off of the 321. He's 4 pounds heavier, whatever it is. So, and 34-inch arms. He worked out well, but like I said, I want to see his agility testing. I think he might be a right tackle or guard. We'll see with how the testing goes, how the Packers potentially view him. But as for now, he's on my board, but I might take him off eventually. We'll see, like I said, with agility testing. Another guy, Brent Crum from Wyoming, who a lot of people probably didn't know about coming into the combine, but he's been on my draft board for a couple of years now. He was a left tackle at Wyoming. He was like a 4-year starter left tackle. Came in 6'8", 313, so he put on a little bit of weight. He was like 300 before. Arms were okay length, just under 34. For 6'8", that's not bad, though. But ran a 4.94, so the dude's really athletic. Really good agility testing, actually, to 7.393 cone, 4.73 short shuttle. Actually, this is really good, but decent agility testing within the Packers thresholds, really. So the Packers could potentially view him as a day 3 guy that they could bring in and develop as a left tackle. Even though he's a 4-year starter, he could still use some work because he was playing the Mountain West and playing in Wyoming. So could be a guy that they take and they let him sit for a year and see what they have after that. Another guy, Garrett Greenfield from South Dakota State, just under 6'6", 311, just under 35-inch arms. So that's actually pretty impressive. I'm sorry, 33.5-inch arms. Sorry, looking at the wrong guy. But ran a 5.22. His short shuttle was a bit high though, 4.85 with the Packers. Although they don't prioritize short shuttle, that still factors into it. They're more heavily on 3-cone, and his 3-cone was okay, 7.76. But that short shuttle still is a little bit of a question mark. But again, athletically, at least overall, he's a fit. One of the guys I really like, Delmar Glaze from Maryland, came in at 6'4", 315, so he dropped a little bit of weight. He was like 322 at the Senior Bowl, I think it was, or 323, something like that, which I think he was too heavy. Because last year he played at like 310 or something like that. So I think 315-ish is probably a good weight for him. But came in almost almost 35-inch arm, sorry. And ran a 5.2, 140. Not amazing. Had just a 6.58 RS score, sorry. But I think mostly because his vertical was a 25.5, which is, again, right on the Packers borderline. I think, if I remember right, the shortest vertical they'd taken was like the guy who had like a 25-inch vert. So he's right there in the borderline. I just want to see his agility drills, like I said, because I think he played a little too heavy this past season, over 320-ish, 323, 324, whatever it was. So I think that affected his agility, but the drop weight, I think, hopefully helps it, and it looks more agile like he did in 2022. So I think he's a potential Packers fit. Like I said, depending on the agility drills. I think that if they take him, they probably take him day 2. Another potential fit with the Packers, Blake Fisher from Notre Dame, just under 6'6", came in 310, just over 34-inch arms, ran a 5.2, had some good agility good agility testing and explosion testing. 7.76, 3-cone, and stuff like that. So that's right there with the Packers, like 7.76 or better. So right there, they could view him as, if they think he could play left tackle, could view him as a pick, or maybe they see him as a right tackle / guard type of guy. So again, could be a fit there, day 3. Another guy I really like, but didn't test that well, Javon Foster from Missouri, came in at 6'5.5", 313. So he still put on a little bit of weight. He was like 308 at the Senior Bowl. Maybe it might have been too much weight. Um, but came in 30 over 35 over 34-inch arms, sorry, but at 5'3", 40. Not great. Just on the very borderline for the Packers, especially at tackle. Yeah, really borderline. But his explosion testing was okay. We just really want to see. I just really want to see the agility testing because, like I said, the extra weight it might have slowed him down a little bit. So I wouldn't be surprised if he showed up as pro day at 308, 307 or something like that, and just has some good agilities. But we'll see with that. Moving on to interior offensive line. So the Packers view interior offensive line a little bit differently. So they've an interesting fact I think that some people haven't talked about or haven't noticed or what have you is that the Packers actually have never taken an offensive lineman under 32-inch arms since Ted. I have to go back and check on Wolf, of course. Combine data from before 2000 is really sketchy, so I don't know if you're able to find the arm length measurements for guys that Wolf drafted, but at least since Ted, they haven't drafted anybody under 32-inch arms and at all, like a guard or a tackle. Obviously, tackle it's 33 and a quarter, but with guard or center, it's been 32. That's been the shortest they've taken. So I bring that up because the guy that tested the best, Tanner Bortolini, came out with 31.5-inch arms, which is, again, like I said, under their length threshold. I don't know if that's too much for them. It might be. I think that for sure that means that they're not going to be able to, they're not going to see him as being able to play tackle. But is that arm length too short for him to think he can even play guard? Maybe they view him as just a center. Because if they view him as just a center, they may not want to take him because if you're a backup and you can only play one position, that's not something they're going to like. But he tested really well, like I said. 4.9, 440, good agility dress, really good 3-cone, 7.16. It's amazing. It's really, really good. I think it's one of the best in all time of the combine. But like I said, might not be on the board. Moving on from him, Jarrett Kingston from USC, and before that, Washington State. Came in at 6'4", 306, 32-inch arms, and ran a 5.02 40. Good there. Good short shuttle 4.47. Decent explosion testing. Excuse me. Sorry. Okay. And then he has actually has tackle experience. He played guard this past year for USC, or pretty bad. USC offensive line didn't play that great, but he has tackle experience, and the Packers love that. And he fits within their thresholds. He tested better than I thought. I didn't think he was gonna be that great of an athlete, but still tested better than I thought. So could be a fit for the Packers on day 3. He looks like he probably could pack on a few more pounds, but 306 is okay, especially for the Packers. Another fit of the Packers, CJ Hansen, guard, 6'5", 300 even, 32-inch arms, had actually a 9.87 RAS score, a 5-second 5-second flat 40, sorry, and has some decent explosion testings. I haven't done the research on him as far as his versatility is for where he's played other positions. I'd have to look. I just haven't looked into him too much yet, but could be a fit again. Another one, Dylan McMahon from South Carolina. He's a good fit because, again, he has center and guard experience. 6'3", 299. So a little light, but could pack on a few pounds. Probably, I think he dropped a little bit of weight for the combine. But 31-inch arms again, but 31 and 3/4. So he's just a little under the 32. So I think he's still a potential fit there. But had a 9.86 RAS, 5'1", 40. Had some pretty good agility, really good agility testing as well. Sorry, I talk too fast sometimes. 7.26 3-cone, 4.33 short shuttle. Good numbers there. So again, like I said, if they can kind of look past the arm length a little bit, could be a good fit on day 3. One of my favorite center prospects in this draft, Matt Lee from Miami, originally from UCF. He's a really cool dude. Cool player, I should say. Just under 6'4", and came in at 301 actually. So he put on a little bit of weight. Senior Bowl, he was like 288, I think it was. So he put some weight back on. So that's good for him. And that really fits his play style actually too. I'll get to that in a moment real quick. But he had 32-inch arms, 985 RAS score, 503 40, which is really good. 31-inch vert. So those are all good numbers. We just got to see his agility testing. With that being said, I really like his play because he's athletic, but he has that mauler mentality the way he plays. He tries to bury dudes. But again, like I said, he's athletic. He's got good, decent arm length. So I think he'd be a great fit in Green Bay, especially if they want to go a little bit more mauling type of guys in the run game, but guys that still fit the zone. if they want to be a little more aggressive, more physical in the run game. But again, like I said, guys that can play in the zone, I think he'd be a great fit, especially if they either as a backup for Myers, and he can play guard. He hasn't really. He's been a center pretty much his whole career, but he's had some snaps at guard here and there. Not much, but he could play some guard if you need him to. But I think he'd be a good backup for Myers, a potential developmental guy. If Myers continues to struggle, continues to be inconsistent, he could take over in 2025. Waste a year and kind of learns and add some muscle to him, because even though he's kind of a mauler, he had some lack of strength, but again, like I said, he put on some weight, so it looks like that probably helps. We'll see, obviously, of course, but so his lack of strength was a little bit due to weight and bulk because he was under 300 pounds. But so, anyways, moving on from him, Jacob Monk from Duke, another versatile guy. Actually, he's played guard and center. He might have even played tackle. I have to look. I can't remember for sure, but I have him as a center / guard. 6'3", 308, 32-inch arms, and have 5'09", 40. Good expulsion testing. He's a potential fit, like I said, because he's played guard as well. So he's got to keep an eye on. Bo Limmer from Arkansas, another potential fit. Came in at just under 6'5", 302 with 31 and 8 3/4 inch arms again. So another guy that his arms are a little short, but they're within, like I said, the range. So he may or may not have him on their board. He's played guard as well. So he has versatility that they like. 5'2", 240. Good explosion testing. Pretty good. Actually, no, really good. 3-cone 747. Not elite like Borlini, but still pretty good. Well under the Packers threshold of 775, 776, around that range. So he would be a potential fit if they can look past the arm. Nick Gargulio. Gargulio? Yeah, I think I'm pronouncing it right. He's another fit, 6'5", 318. So a little on the bigger side, actually, but not obviously over the thresholds. But I believe he has guard experience as well. I have him as a center, though, just under 34-inch arms. Ran a 5'2", 540. Has some good explosion testing. Has 7.333 cone, which is pretty good. Didn't do the short shuttle, but still that profile fits pretty good with what they like. Brady Latham, another guy from Arkansas, a guard though, of course, but has some center experience, I think. Again, like I should really mark this stuff down there on my board, but I didn't. I'll add to it more later, and I'll have that information more available. But 6'5", 304, 32-inch arms, 5'3", 140 though, so a little on the slow side from what the Packers like. But still had a high RS score because he had really good agilities. And the Packers, again, prioritize agilities more than anything. So I don't think that would knock him off their board. It may move him down a little bit, day 3 type of thing. But like I said, still within their thresholds on the arm length, and the 7.57 3-cone is really good. So I don't think that would knock him off their board. Another guy probably on their board, although I don't like his film. Carson Barnhart from Michigan. I have him as a guard. Just under 6'5", 6'4.5", 306 with 33 and 3.375 inch arms. So just over their threshold of tackle, but I think he's a guard. 5'2", 140, had a good explosion testing, pretty okay agility testing. 7.83 3-cone, which is right on the border of what they like. But he has tackle experience, so they could be a pick on late day 3. Maybe they move him to guard and develop him a little bit as a guard, because he played tackle this last year and he wasn't that good. So we'll see with that. Another guy I kind of like from Maryland. He's kind of an underrated guy. Nobody really has really talked too much about him. No, forgive me if I'm pronouncing this wrong, because I've never heard anybody pronounce his name. Gottlieb Aedzi. Sorry. He played right tackle for Maryland, but he was a JC guy that moved up this past year. 6'4", 308, but 33-inch even arms. So that's why I think he might be a guard convert. But good athlete, again, like I said, developmental guy. But again, of course, could fill in at tackle if needed for injuries and stuff like that. But ran a 5'01", 40, and had good explosion testing. We just don't have the agility. But he could be a fit. Sorry, I can't talk. Talking too fast, too much on my mind. Another great fit. A lot of people talk about, a lot of Packer fans have liked Dominic Cooney from Kansas, a guy who's played guard and tackle. He started at guard 2022, and then this past year played left tackle. But he's for sure a guard. You look at his body; he's got his thick, wide body. And for a tackle, his agility is not that great, not that good. But a guard, I'm pretty sure he's fine. But he's a guy like, again, 6'5", 303, over 33-inch arms, ran a 5.3, 5.40, a bit on the high side. On the high side. But again, like I said, the Packers don't prioritize 40, but unless you're like really slow. But his agility testing was really good, was pretty good. 7.4, 7.3 cone, 4.4 flat short shuttle. He had a 30-inch vertical, so pretty good numbers there. Explosive dude. I think he'd be good for the Packers again. Can play guard, can play tackle. They could draft him and put him at right guard, lock it down. Another underrated guy I kind of like that. I don't know too many people talk about. He's a day 3 guy, but I think he's a potential developmental guy. Prince Pines from Tulane. I don't think I ever heard anybody really talk about him either. So 6'4.5", 322. So the thing about that was he played a lot heavier at Tulane. This past year, I want to say he played at like 330-ish. And before that, he played even heavier. But he's been continually dropping weight, and he gained some athleticism from it. Came with almost 33-inch arms. Ran a 5.3, 4.40, not great. But again, like we've said, the Packers don't prioritize those 40s as long as it's not super slow, as long as you're running a 5.5, something like that. So he could be on the board as a day 3, again, developmental guy who they could take and help him kind of rebuild his body, remold his body, drop more of that baby fat and need to build up his bulk and strength and stuff like that. As far as I can remember, he only has experience at guard. So yeah, it could be a potential pick on day 3, like I said. Packers like you to have tackle experience, but sometimes they'll make exceptions. Not very often. But so one of the last guys, one of the more lower guys that I don't think he's really going to be on the board, but athletically, at least right now, he is. Cedric Van Pran from Georgia. Came in a lot smaller than we thought. Came in at just 298. He was listed, I want to say, at 313 or something like that by Georgia. So I think he dropped weight to run faster, and just his testing was okay. And his arms a little short too, actually, under 32 inch, 31 and a quarter ish, or just over 31 and a quarter. But he ran a 5.2 40, and his short shuttle was not good at 4.82. Yeah, that's not very good. When you're getting guys with 4.6, 4.57s, 4.44s, stuff like that, 4.4 flat, and you're running a 4.2, that's not good. But his 3 cone was pretty good, actually. So he's still there on their board at 7.46. 7.4 was really good. So I think that if you combine the two, it makes his agility kind of average-ish, but still kind of on their board. Arms a little short, so we'll see. And the final guard, or interior offensive lineman, I should say, Drake Nugent from Michigan, originally from Stanford. Kind of one of those, honestly, one of those Stanford gut centers. Undersized dude, 6'1.5", 298, but good arm length at 33 inches. Has some good testing, actually. I think his RAS score was low because of his size. His RAS was like a 6.83, which sounds really, you would see that and you're like, oh man, this guy's not very athletic. This guy is, slow, whatever. But he ran a 5.2, 340, which again, not great, but it's okay. It's not bad, average-ish. But had like a 29.5-inch vert, 4.45 short shuttle, 7.3, 3 cone was pretty good. So his athletic standing was pretty good outside of his 40. His 40 wasn't great, but it was okay. But everything else is pretty good, and then 8 foot 5-inch broad jump, a little low, but it's okay. But so I think it's just his size knocked him down. And then since now I am at almost an hour, I'm going to stop and I'm going to do defense probably tomorrow. So that'll be it for that. So the offense, and then we will check you guys out tomorrow when I'll talk about defensive players. And obviously the McKinney signing will affect that, and I'll talk about that some more tomorrow, and maybe some more free agent news. We'll see. All right, take it easy, guys. See you guys later. Peace out.